All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up, for putting your cameras on. And I hope you can really engage with this session. So what this is, in case you haven't heard, is we're doing a new workshop series called Debating 101. That's primarily catering to people who are trying to get into debate. And say, for instance, you come from a school and you don't have a coach or you don't know where exactly to start, we'll be offering a workshop series of standalone content that you can come back to, that you can interact with during the session. And there'll be at least one workshop every weekend. So every weekend between maybe like 5 p.m. and 10 p.m., the Debaters Council will be doing one session where we'll be getting down international speakers who've succeeded in the university circuit, who've maybe done debate in school, or maybe people who are getting into debate, all of whom can give you like a new perspective and give you like some knowledge that you can use. And if it's useful to you, you can share it to your friends and just ensure that more people. Um, can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, I just got a text from a person saying they couldn't hear me. It could be that within Discord your the sound quality isn't turned on. So maybe just fiddle around with the controls. Sorry about that. But yeah, so our first speaker and first workshop of this session to really kick us off will be Mya from Princeton. So Mya debates for Princeton University, and Mya, even though Mya maybe might not have been debating as much in school in what you might traditionally consider debate, Mya has been very, very successful. So Hart House IB, which is a prestigious Canadian tournament and considered one of the world's majors, Mya was in, I believe, the novice finals for that. And other than that, Mya also handles equity for Princeton debate, which is essentially making debate a space that everyone feels welcome in and giving people the ability to participate. So what this workshop will be and who this workshop is catered to is people who would consider themselves novice debaters. So if you've been debating for maybe around 6 months, maybe a little less, and you're just trying to sort of work up your confidence, work on your speaking, figure out what you need to succeed, then this workshop is for you. If you maybe might consider yourself an advanced debater, there'll be sessions for you that might cater to you more specifically later on. So catch an eye out for say, maybe advanced principles that we might do next week. But what this workshop will do is give you a very strong perspective of the kinds of things you can do to develop fast, like what kind of resources you need to be looking at, mentality, how to develop public speaking, because fundamentally debate is an exercise in being able to speak well. And that's something that can come from a variety of places. It doesn't have to be any particular form of debate. So yeah, without further ado, I'll hand the floor over to Mya. And I think this is the last thing to consider is this workshop will work best if it's interactive. So we have breakout room capabilities. Mya might give you interactive exercises where you can do with each other. And to properly get use from this, you need to engage. And I would really love if, again, we could get more cameras on, or if not, if you're just willing to unmute yourself and speak, that would be super, super good. But yeah, thank you so much. And Mya, over to you.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Janu, and for putting on this program. Absolutely incredible, and I'm really excited to be a part of this. So to get started, we are going to jump over to a Google Slides presentation, which I will share on my screen, on how to work quickly and sustainably as a novice debater. I believe that one of the most important things any beginner can do is to think about how they can improve as quickly as possible, but also to think about how they can continue to sustain their progress, because being a beginner can be a little bit exhausting in some ways. It challenges you, it pushes you to do new things and into a space that you're not familiar with. And I think navigating that and learning how to learn is really important. So this workshop, to take a look at it, we'll start off thinking about my background and yours. And here, I'm going to encourage you to reflect back on your experiences and think about the things that you already have in your own personal toolkit that are going to really help you as a debater. And I'm also going to talk about mine because as John said, I actually had no debate experience prior to college, but I ended up being a novice finalist at Hart House IV tournament, intervarsity tournament, and then a novice finalist judge at Yale intervarsity tournament. And so, with no debating experience, I was able to get into these tournaments and really enjoy them and learn a lot from them. And I think that anyone can do that. Anyone is capable of jumping into something new and flourishing within that. And I'm going to talk to you about the things that I realized about the best debaters that have helped me so far that I believe you will find beneficial as well. Next, we're going to move into some prepping and speaking tips. I think that one of the things that is the most unique about being a debater is that you have to think logically. You can't just speak well, you also have to have these arguments. And prepping those arguments is critical to your debating success. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to prep and some approaches, and also what makes prepping so challenging, as well as just some speaking tips that I find in general really beneficial. Then we're going to have a brief activity involving this little sheep. And also, it just helps us think about working on your feet, which is mostly what debate is, thinking on your feet. Beyond the initial prep, you also have to know how to be responsive when things shift. So we're going to practice that as practicing how to jump in or to keep going when you lose your train of thought, which is something that will inevitably happen to you as a debater. And I think that it's very easy to lose your train of thought sometimes, and it's important that we can keep going rather than be stopped by that. And then finally, we're going to talk about logic, certain debate tips that really, really helped me in the way of logic when I was just getting started, and then also on how to learn sustainably, how to continue to grow as you move forward. First of all, thank you guys so much for being here, and a special thanks to those of you who I can see on camera. It's really, really great to be here with all of you from across the world, and your dedication to growth is absolutely apparent. You are here on a weekend, your evening here with us, so we really appreciate all of you, and we're super excited for you to get involved in this activity that we love. So first, let's think about my background and about yours. There we go. Okay. So a big part of getting into debate was understanding what I did and didn't have. To introduce myself a little bit, I am a Princeton student studying public and international affairs. I also considered myself a writer. So next year I'll be working at the Princeton Writing Center as a writing fellow. I'm the associate editor at the Daily Princetonian in the humor section. And I was the high school editor-in-chief of my school's student newspaper, but also the student literary magazine. So writing felt pretty usual to me, or at least I thought that argumentative writing was pretty comfortable to me. And I also did competitive Shakespearean acting, which is probably the most random thing I did in high school, but somehow related to debate, and forensics, which is not debate, but it's kind of like the speech side of speech and debate. So I did performance poetry, play acting, and impromptu. So obviously this and this is really different from this. And transitioning from my Shakespearean moment to standing up in front of people and debating felt incredibly scary, but it was also really huge that I was able to harness the skills from things that seem so different. For example, when you're writing, you're alone in your room, whereas when you're debating, it might be virtual and maybe you're alone in your room, but the implication of other people being present and of a timed pressure, which is not existing in writing. And then in acting, when I was acting competitively, there is this idea of people watching, but there's not the idea of having to be logical. It's all memorized. You're memorizing lines and reciting them back to the audience pretty much. So debate is so different from everything else you might try. it combines all of the beauty and logic of writing with all of the time pressure of a speech category and of giving a speech, but also all of the presence and the audience of performance if you were to be in the performing arts. So debate is a really special activity, and it's also very challenging. So it's important that you draw on the tools that you already have. So we are going to do a 5 to 10-minute activity. We're going to start with 5 minutes, and if you guys need more, we will go from there. What this looks like is we're going to take 5 minutes to explore what experiences you have that feel relevant to debate, or experiences that you have that you know are strengths for you. And then we're going to think about how they're the same and how they are different. For example, if I were to talk about acting, for the same, I would say they're the same in that it's important to enunciate. You want to be heard. You want to make sure that your voice is loud enough. And if your panel can't hear you, then you're not going to do well in debate. Just like if your audience can't hear you, then you're not going to be acting very successfully. But then how are they different? Acting is memorized. Debate, you're thinking on the spot. And so we are going to go kind of for 5-10 minutes, just take the time. I'm going to set my timer now, and I encourage you to either get a pencil and paper or on your device, maybe on your notes app, just working through how your experiences would match up with and be conducive to debate, and also how they're different and what different things you might bring to debate. Okay, we're starting the timer now. And I would never ask you guys to do something that I would not do myself. So I will be working through this with you also, and I will share mine as an example when we come back in 5 minutes.
So everyone, you will get the most out of this if you participate. And one thing to also flag is that we'll do like a quick Q&A session at the end. Hello? Oops.
Guten Tag. Oh, Adam is here.
Sorry?
Who is it? Hopefully, I'm not an oddball in this little gathering. Also, I'm going to rename myself without the sec part. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, she's the one who's doing it.
Maya, do we want them to like bring them back right now? Or do you want to give them like a bit more time?
I have on my timer just about 1 or 2 more minutes, but we can bring them. How are you guys feeling? Are you ready to be brought back? Do you feel like you've reflected on the experience, or could you use a minute or 2 more?
Pritish, what do you think? You want some more time? Are you ready?
I could not hear the topic properly.
Oh no. It's asking how you think your past experiences, whether that's like your conversations with friends or maybe something you did in your free time, or you really like to have like kind of verbal spars with your siblings, have contributed to potential skills that you could use in debate, or what your kind of toolbox looks like right now.
Got it.
Awesome.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Udit. Thanks, guys, for giving us feedback. It really helps.
Yes. Okay, so we will give you 1 or 2 minutes more.
It starts at 6:30. It's 7. Now it's finishes at 7:30. No.
I wish I had an accent.
Which accent is that? It's an American accent.
Yeah, at least something like that.
Okay, how are we feeling? Can I hear in the chat or from you guys directly, or give me a thumbs up if we are ready to move on? Okay, we've got 1 thumbs up, we've got 2 thumbs up. Perfect. Oh, I just got a very sweet direct message. I completely agree. Okay, so we are going to get started and come back by just sharing a little bit about what you guys said. I will quickly go first to show you my example, but really I want to hear from you guys and think about your experiences because I've already talked about mine. So for my experience with this exercise, I decided to focus on writing and how writing was the same and different from debate. So I really like writing. And what's the same between writing and debate to me, or the big 3 things I flagged, was that it's good to have logic, it involves crafting your words to be persuasive, and it communicates your ideas to an audience. But it's different in that writing has more complex transitions. So you're expected to really make sure that there's this very neat flow in the best papers or in the best writing. Whereas debate makes you think more quickly. And it's different in that your audience is right in front of you in debate. Whereas usually when you're writing, there aren't a bunch of people staring at you or writing down what you're writing. The other thing is that writing is done most often alone, and then there's an editor later on, whereas debate kind of works in a different way where you're working with other people, but you deliver the speech alone later on. So now that I've talked a little bit about that and shown you a bit of an example, I would love to hear from you guys. What have you done, or what do you see as a part of your life or something that you enjoy that you think will be conducive to debate? And then how is that different from debate? I'm gonna cold call people. Can I hear from Adam? What did you think about?
In terms of experiences, I was also a writer, even though albeit not a great one.
No,
I wrote here and there. I'm sorry.
I said that's awesome.
Yeah. And also, like, my mom's very argumentative. She likes doing things. So I guess
Yeah.
that also feeds
That's
into this.
That's awesome. My mom is also very argumentative. And when I got on to debate at Princeton, I called her and I said, Mom, my years of experience paid off. I was like, what about you? Is it Amna?
Yeah, it's Amna. I mean, I think I would say the same that Adam said, because I feel like it probably helps in like a various amount of skills, like on a spectrum. So like even with past experiences, it helps in like a lot of stuff, like from things like, I mean, it goes on to like public speaking to like almost every single thing, where like
For
it
sure.
gives you like better communication skills, where you're not like afraid to like make conversations with people. So like, I mean, yeah, it makes me really like feel like a social butterfly talking to a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Being able to communicate is so critical to debate. And if you can talk to a lot of people and public speak, you can absolutely channel those skills into debating. What about you? Is it Molly?
Yeah. In terms of like experiences, I have two older siblings. So when I was small, I used to like argue a lot with them. So
Yeah,
I'd say that that's a very significant experience. But I also did like drama and public speaking. So I'd say that ties back to debating as well.
absolutely. Yeah, that's incredible. Maybe we'll hear from one or two more people. Does anyone want to share their experiences?
I think we just start cold calling.
Okay. Jonal, do you want to pick two?
Yeah. Oh,
Hi.
hi,
Hi.
Dylan.
Can I share my experience with you guys?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, as the first person said, I also personally, with my parents, I'm very talkative. I'm very argue. Like I always argue sometimes. Like the matter I have with the rules stuff, or that I came to debate because my parents really encouraged me for the fact that I have a really good talking ability of what I can do, and like I'm very capable of, you know, after I joined debating, I really knew that I went really beyond my capabilities, and like I'm really excited. I'm really enthusiastic, looking forward for everything. Like when you go with like competitions, you meet very other persons, and like you're going to argue with some random person that you don't know from like you just met him 2 seconds ago, and like you start to talk with him. It's like really fun. Like you can like you can be very open to the society. You can like communicate easier in a public manner. I like the way that people talk against me, and like I talk back to them.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I think you're so right. Is debating is kind of magical in that you can just meet someone and start arguing with them, which is never really a situation that you typically encounter in the real world, but also you do get to meet so many. Sorry, what?
The message I sent you personal was also me. Like I
Yes,
really like writing, reading, and like speaking. Those three things. So I really went beyond my capabilities after what I said. Like what I learned in the debating team. I like really went off my capabilities, and then only I knew, wow, I could do more than what I did. So like I was really energized in those
that's
experiences.
awesome. No, that is awesome. And that's a great point, is that when you start debating, I love how you said it, beyond my capabilities. I think debating really does push you past what you've known before, in that you are just having so many new experiences talking with different people.
Right.
Okay.
Let's call on a couple of people who don't have cameras on, I think, just to So like
Yeah.
test the waters. Gavin, do you want to share anything with the group?
Hi, my name is Gavin. This is my first time in a debating workshop. I have no experiences. I just wanted to come and learn what's happening and stuff.
No, that's so great. And also like it could be like experiences that aren't debating related, like you being the person in your friend group to ask the teacher whether you can have a free period or something, or you being someone who decides like what movie to watch in your household. Like all of that is debate. And I think what Maya is doing here is showing you that even though you might not think you have experience, there are other things in your life that you can draw from and use that to become better at debate, which is, I think, a really great lesson to learn as a novice or someone who's getting into debate. And again, like, thank you so much for speaking up and thank you so much for being here. But yeah, I'll toss it back to Maya.
All right. Yes. Yeah, Gavin, you're in the perfect place, and I'm really glad that you're here. So thank you for showing up for learning and debate and your future in debating. And I wish you all good things. We're going to call on maybe one more person, and then we will move on. Can I hear from Aditi? Maybe. If you
Aditi,
want.
do you have anything to share?
It's also okay if not. We can just move on.
Could I share my ideas, please?
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Thank you. So I actually prepared some like 4 topics or 5. So I think I'll go one by one. So
I can tell
so
this is a room of debaters.
So I mean, arguing with others like family members and all, it is really good. So I wanted to start me with that because most people talk about that. I mean, arguing with others can help you to express ideas and say it in another way, but there is a problem that there is no structure. When arguing, you're blaming and all. So reading, I'm not at me reading. So you understand more logical thinking, more new ideas, more information, but you don't actually talk. You're just reading. And
Right.
drawing. So drawing, expressing ideas in one motion, which explains a lot, but in one single motion. So you're expressing a billion ideas in one single thing. So I think drawing also has helped me a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I would not have thought of drawing, not being a visual artist myself. I would not have thought of drawing, but I think you're completely right, is learning how to express ideas through different mediums would definitely be conducive to debate.
By the way, could I speak a bit?
I think, yeah. And then after that, we are going to move
Okay.
on just because I want to have enough time, but absolutely.
To begin with, I am not a writer. I'm not a good writer. I was a writer, but not now. But still, I'm not too good at it. The basic thing to choose debating for my life is to learn something new. Because I wanted to like find something new and all. And then to meet many people, as most of the people told. And enhancing my skills, as I remember when I was in grade 6, there was a debate for social studies. I mean, this debate for something I can't remember the topic. And like the sir was so happy on like our team won, by the way. And then the sir was so happy, and then he was like, "Puta, son, you can join and you can improve your skills." I was like, I don't know how to join the debate team. And then in this year, I got the chance. And mostly before joining debating, I got the experience by. I usually fight with my younger sister. I mean, I really have good fights, which I win. And sometimes, because my mother never lets me fight, so I have to shout at her, so that she shouts at me again, and we argue a lot. So mostly that is what encouraged me. That's it.
I think debate is a great outlet for argumentative people because then you can argue and it's rewarded as opposed to arguing with your siblings who sometimes don't want to argue with you. I think those are all great experiences. And I'm really glad that you were interested in the activity and decided to seek out opportunities to do so. Yeah, just to echo what I've said, again, I'm really, really excited that so many of you are here. So we are going to move on in the slideshow. Thank you so much for engaging with that conversation and for letting me know what your experiences have been like. Can you all see the slideshow now?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, amazing. All right.
Yes.
Good. Thank you guys for the verbal confirmation. I cannot see your screens at this moment. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about some tips for prepping and for speaking. So we're going to start with how to think in the prep room. All right, it's time for the debate. You are sitting down in this prepping state. A strategy that I have found incredibly useful, I have called here apart, together, apart. This is a team strategy that will help you communicate with your partners and produce the most ideas and the greatest ideas. First, I have a quick story. When I was getting started with debate, the way they bring us onto the team or test us in the Princeton debate team, which we call PDP, is an audition. And in the audition, you prep alone and you deliver the speech alone. And I was told after my audition that I was very memorable and I got one of the higher scores. But then when I started actually debating with other people, I realized that I was by far not one of the better debaters. And I was wondering what had happened because it felt so easy in the audition. But then when I started debating, I felt so nervous. I felt unsure. And I really struggled with what they put in front of me, with the challenge of debate. And what I realized was that a huge reason why is that when I was alone prepping by myself, I knew exactly what I was going to say. But when you introduce other people who are thinking alongside you, collaboration skills become absolutely crucial. And those were skills that in the moment I was lacking because I had done individual activities or team activities, such as acting in a theatrical context, that really, really involve structure. So there was no thinking on the fly as a group. But that is so important. And so, how to start thinking in the prep room, I recommend starting apart, coming together and working together, and then furnishing those ideas apart. So, what this looks like is, let's say you are with your teammates and you have your motion, you have your ideas, you are ready to get started in thinking about how you're going to approach this debate. What I found really helpful is to give yourself the first, however much time you have for prep, give yourself maybe the first 20% just to work alone. And in this time working alone, you should think, what would you say in response to the question that the debate is posing you? What are your arguments? And then what do you think the other side will say? So anticipating some of their arguments, thinking about some of the examples that they might use, but also making sure that you have plenty of examples that you might use. And thinking about your logic, what would you say and why? And again, this is just by yourself. This is individually alongside your teammates, but not with them yet. So that's the first apart section of apart, together, apart. Now for together. When we get into together, that is when you get with your teammates, kind of talk to each other about, okay, what arguments do we want to run? What is the framework through which we should approach this motion, this question that is posed to us? And in that's where you say, okay, well, what ideas did you come up with? What ideas did you come up with? And kind of make sure that you're all combining these ideas and that you're getting the ideas collectively that you would use as a group to approach the debate. This means that you have not only potentially the opportunity to have more ideas because everyone is going to think differently and come up with different things, but you're also going to have better ideas because as you're comparing what you and your teammates are all thinking of, you know which ones stand out and are the strongest. And you can be in that setting, like it's important to remember that your teammates, that you want to win this debate together. And at that point, you say, "Ooh, that is a really good idea. And I didn't come up with it myself, but I think we should run this idea first." Or, "Oh, that's a great idea, but I think we should mechanize it in this way or in that way." Or, "Wow, that's an awesome point. But have you thought about this reason why it's true? Because you have this reason and that reason, but you didn't think that it's true because of this as well." And so that is kind of the together portion, is thinking about what it looks like to work in a team and using the best ideas from each individual. So once you have that, you should have your framework and you should have decided on that as a group. And then you go back to the last apart section. And in this apart section, you have to remember that even though you plan as a group, you approach the motion as a team, you debate alone. Like when you stand up, you're not standing up with another person who can speak out of your mouth. And so the speech that you ultimately deliver is one that you have the responsibility for. And so that last apart section is just really to make sure that you know what you're going to say. Just a brief amount of time. This should be the smallest section of your prep time to say, okay, we talked about this. We know what our frameworks are as a team. Now that I am going to be responsible for giving a speech, what do I think that my framework is probably going to be? And if you are working apart from other people and you come up with a really good idea that you think, say you're the first speaker and your second speaker should say, or say you're the second speaker and you are thinking, you're like, wait, they should do this, they should run this argument. You can also just turn to your teammate and say, oh, you should really include that. This would be great. Okay. Now we are going back to the presentation. The other thing is a concept I am going to refer to as seen, heard, felt. Seen, heard, felt is really important. And this is a picture actually of my acting director from high school. And he said there are 3 things that an actor must be before they're anything else. The actor must be seen, the actor must be heard, and the actor must be felt. And even though in debate, it's not important necessarily, or it's not as important as in acting, that we're emoting, that we are so passionate, or that we, like in debate, you're never really going to be asked, for example, to cry on cue. I think everyone would be a little bit unsettled, although I'm sure it's happened before. There are a lot of similarities in that if your judge can't really hear you, they're going to be working so hard to understand and track your argument that they're not going to be able to enjoy your logic. And if they're expending more energy just to hear your performance or just to hear this debate, this speech that you're putting together, both, that you put together in prep time, but that you're working on the spot, they're going to really struggle to give you a good rank because you will be too quiet and they will miss logic, or they might not give you the benefit of the doubt when there is room to do so, just because they're already working so hard just to hear what you're saying. So, seen, it's really important that when you are standing before your panel, you hold yourself a certain way, you have good posture, you look confident. If you are avoiding eye contact and cowering, or if you obviously look really nervous, and it's okay to be nervous. I think most people, maybe not everyone, but most people entering a debate, and every novice walks into debate feeling really nervous. So it's all right if you are, and you shouldn't feel at all ashamed, especially to say to your, teammates, or like, oh, like I'm feeling nervous right now. That's okay to admit that because it's often the truth. But you shouldn't walk into a debate room looking scared. Your competition debaters will sense that. You don't want them to be able to see that and to pin that as a weakness of yours. And the same with the panel. You don't want to go in looking unconfident or looking really scared. You want then to be heard. You want to make sure that when you're talking, you speak loudly, or not loudly. You should not be screaming, but you should be speaking loud enough that your judge will be able to hear you. And if you're really concerned, like, is this an appropriate volume? I've seen cases where before starting their timer, debaters even ask that, like, is this volume okay? Can you hear me well enough? Then we have felt. So in acting, this is about making sure your emotions are really palpable for your audience, that they can really feel them. And in debate, again, presentation is not as important as the logic that you're going to provide. But what I've realized is that the best debaters are very emotive, and not emotive in a random or irrelevant way, but they allow judges to understand the importance, the impact of their words and of what they're saying by showing them that there is feeling. So for example, if someone is a really great debater and there's emotion, where an impact could be that let's say it's about disease maintenance, the motion, and one of the impacts is that a lot of people could get sick. If there's a debater that says, and this is really bad because a lot of people get sick, versus a debater that's saying, and this is absolutely tragic because many people lose their health, it has a different impact, even though it's the same statement, and it sits with judges a little bit differently. If you can convince judges that you really believe in your argument, you're going to be a more convincing debater. And in the same breath, if you're debating and no one is buying your argument, including you, it's going to be a pretty weak debate and a pretty weak argument. Next, getting lost. So everybody at some point in their debating career, or in their public speaking career, or in their career as a human being, is going to get to a point where their mind... Sorry.
I can't see your screen.
You can't?
Yeah. Okay, I can.
Okay.
There might be a slight lag.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
No,
Sounds
but thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you for telling us.
Yes,
If at
I
any point
appreciate it.
if at any point you can't see, you can't hear, if you have questions, you can drop them in chat. Please engage. And yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, Maya.
No, all good. Thank you. So getting lost. Every single person is going to have a time where they feel a lot like this train that is falling off of the tracks. Like your mind is going to pause. You're going to have this moment where you glitch out, or you feel like stuttering, or you just completely lose your train of thought. And that is an awful and hard moment, but it happens to literally everyone. And so there are a few things that when you get lost, when you get stuck, you should absolutely not do. The first one is pause or freeze. So it's super easy to get nervous in this situation, but you don't want to just be speaking, and then stop, and then say nothing. Because it feels very obvious that something has gone wrong in your speech, and you don't want to give people that impression, even if it's true, and even if you can know that, and even if later when you're out of the debate round, when you're out of the tournament, you say to your partner, oh, there was a time there where I really completely lost my train of thought. You don't want your judges to know that. And so the other thing you should not do is haphazardly jump on to the next point in your paper. So it doesn't necessarily, like, just beyond trying not to stop or trying not to pause, you shouldn't just, okay, like my train of thought jumped away from me and now I'm going on to the next thing as fast as I can, because that also will feel abrupt and is not super judge friendly. When you're debating, it's really important that you think about how your judge is thinking. And the people who are the best debaters know that it's very important to make their arguments easy to track. And your arguments can't be easy to track if every time you lose your place or you lose your train of thought, you jump super fast to a topic that seems unrelated without much transition. So here are a couple tips for when you get lost. I see it as a situation in which you have 3 different main paths that you can move on using. So the first path you could use is to admit it and move on. And there are kind of 2 mini paths within this path. It can either be humorous or a non-factor. I've absolutely seen really, really talented debaters. Is there a question or? Okay, I think I'm going to move on. But I've seen really talented debaters make a joke out of getting lost. So they might say something like, I lost my train of thought, but that doesn't matter because the point I'm here to prove is, and it's funny because it's relatable. Everyone loses their train of thought sometimes. And by owning it and moving on, they make it something where they aren't pointing at this hole in the ground. They're just building a quick little bridge and jumping over it, and it moves the debate along really smoothly. And then it can also be a non-factor. So it could just be like, I lost my train of thought, but on to the next point. It doesn't have to be a big deal. And it also keeps it so that it's not a big deal to you. It's not a big deal at all. It can just be, again, a non-factor, something small that will not hurt your performance in the debate. You can also conclude gracefully. So keep your transitions smooth and judge friendly. Just if you're not sure what exactly you were going to say at the moment, think about what you were saying before and what you want to say after, rather than this gap in your memory or your gap in what you're thinking, and say, now that I've covered X, I'm moving on to Y. And then the other thing is a cover up. If you can catch yourself losing your train of thought and move on quickly before people notice, that's also great. But if that's not possible, then concluding and moving on is completely fine too. And honestly, both of these are good cover ups and much better than pausing for a long time or letting yourself get in your own head. You should also not spiral if you get lost or get stuck, because again, it's natural. And if you are beating yourself up over the last maybe debating error or stutter or thing that you did, you're actually going to hurt your performance moving forward, which is what you don't want to do. It's just a little mistake and no one will know, or maybe they will and it doesn't even matter because you're about to blow them away with your next point. So looking at time, we are going to move past the activity for now because I have a few more things that I want to say. So here are my tips on logic and on learning. First of all, I think it's important to stay on task. With debate, I, starting out, thought it was best to fill all of your time. So there was absolutely one of my first times practicing debate where I just talked and talked and talked to fill the space, but I wasn't saying that much towards the end. And afterward, the person who was judging and coaching me within the Princeton team completely called me out on it and said, Mya, you ran out of things to say around 3 minutes, but you spoke for 5 within this practice that we were doing. And it was totally true. And so judges can kind of tell when everything is fluff. And it's important that once you move on from a point, or once you realize there's nothing to say, if there really isn't anything you can think of, it's better to stop debating as long as you're within time than it is to just keep going and going with nothing much to say, because you will irritate your judge and even make them think less of the performance or of the speech that you've already given before that. Then we have the annoying imaginary panel member. This is a thing I use to stay on task in both writing and in debate. Every time I am approaching a statement in my debate, if I'm speaking and I'm saying, this is true, or this is how this will impact, like this is how this change will impact people's lives, I imagine there's this annoying imaginary panel member, an imaginary judge, who every single thing I say has to know why. So if I was saying, let's go back to the motion about disease maintenance. If I was saying, introducing this new policy for controlling the spread of disease in this village that we're talking about for the motion would be absolutely helpful. Okay, why? There's a burden of proof and debate that you have to fulfill. So every time you say something, even if it's a simple thing, kittens are cute, why? I prefer dogs over cats, why? Make sure to mechanize it and think of this annoying imaginary judge who every single time you say anything has to know why. And that will also help you to stay on task, but also to have enough things to say and to mechanize or make your arguments really logical. Then also prepping extra and avoiding unrelated emotion. So it's important to stay on task, but also if you are worried about running out of things, it's okay to prep more than you prepared, because oftentimes a speaker later in your debate can take over that. And then also avoiding unrelated emotion. Just because you get mad about a topic or get mad about what another debater said doesn't mean you should over engage them. In fact, that's really dangerous. In our debate circuit, we say something called passion is common, which makes it deadly, or passion equals common equals deadly, because it's true. Emotion is really good in your voice while you're debating, but a lot of the time, if you are getting mad at something that someone said, you'll focus too much on that point rather than on the points that are strategically the best for you. Now, I'm very aware of the time, so very quickly, I'm going to talk just a little tiny bit about catch-all arguments. This is just showing people that your argument is true even if the other person's is true, because once in a while your opponent's going to make a really good point. So for example, even if my opponent's argument is true, my argument is still true and it's more important than theirs. And here's why. And that's another really important part, is if you have an even if statement, tell them why it's true. So going back to that annoying imaginary panel member. And finally, debating sustainably. Because debate is not just an opportunity to push through. It's an activity that requires intellectual rigor and that should be fun. And so it's pretty simple, but pretty impactful that you have to take care of the physical. Sleep the nights before your tournaments. Don't try to debate while you're starving. Make sure to stay hydrated. And make sure that you both relinquish and nurse your ego. You are new at this. So let go of how good you are right now compared to that person who's been doing it for forever. And instead, remember the beauty and the fear attached to being a beginner. And remember to judge yourself based on how you were and the person you want to be, not based on what other people are doing. Again, being a beginner, it's important that you don't compare yourself to others who might have more experience, and instead celebrate your wins to keep your progress fresh and exciting. And finally, remember that debate is an uber applicable skill that's going to help you for the rest of your life. So being able to see through poorly reasoned logic in a world full of people who want to sell you something or want you to believe what they want you to believe in is really important. Writing better arguments, having confidence to stand before people and vouch for what you believe in, and engaging intellectually even when something seems daunting to advocate for yourself and the causes that you care about the most is what debating is all about. Finally, I'll leave some time for some questions and comments, and thank you all so much for being here and for your time. Does anyone have any questions or any follow-ups? And also, I will make sure that hopefully you can have access to the notes from this meeting and the slideshow if anyone wants.
Could we just have small slideshow?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I will put the link in the chat right now. And also, Johnno, would you be able to give them access to the slideshow too?
Would you just drop it in chat as like a shareable link?
Yes, perfect. Okay, there you go. That is the, oh, sorry, hold on. I need to send it to everyone. Okay, there is the slideshow, and then I will also share my notes that informed, so like the minutes of this meeting to everyone. Here, there you go. And in those notes, there's also a link to the slideshow on Google Docs so that you guys can look over what we learned today. I hope that this was helpful, and I really enjoyed getting to know you guys, the ones that we heard from. I wish you all the best of luck in your debate trajectory, and I'm really, really excited for you. It's a great activity, and it's definitely changed the way I see the world and see arguments, and I'm sure it will do the same for you.
Thank you. Thanks for everything that you have told. Thanks for the experience you have been sharing us. Thanks a lot for everything. Personally, hearing your success story and hearing your motivation towards us, like, is leading me to have more fun, like to think that debate is more fun that I ever thought. So thank you for the wonderful things that you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for being here, all of you. All right. With that, should we wrap up, Janu?
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for coming. If you could turn on your camera for a quick picture, that would be great. Just so we can put it in the books. If everyone could just get your camera on, like one quick picture, and y'all can go home. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you had fun. We'll be back again next week with 2 really great sessions. One will be on principles for sure. The other one, just stay tuned for like an update on that. But yeah, thank you so much again, Maya, from the Debaters Council, me and everyone here. But yeah, all right. Have a great day, guys. Thank you, Maya, and I'll end the meeting now. We'll also upload the recording to YouTube later on, and yeah, I hope
Oh,
everyone had
Janu,
fun.
did you want a picture?
I managed to get a couple of screenshots.
Perfect. All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, guys.
Bye.